right, this is a tutorial on the Smooth Scroll one-page website. And I'm giving you some startup files. We'll take a quick look at them. So I'm going to take my root folder, the Birdhouse tutorial, and I'm going to drop it into that dark gray sidebar. And I'm going to take a look at the index page. So you can see here I have everything really marked up so you know what is what. This is an HTML document, HTML5. We're starting the head. I'm putting in just some meta tags for browser compatibility. We're going to add a title here at the top on line 8. So I'm going to call it the Birdhouse Store. And also put your first and last name there so I know whose is whose. Let's try to get my... Underneath that I have a description and content. And this is really helpful for Google and other search engines to not only find your website but have a description underneath. So I'm just going to make a note here. And of course our author's name again is going to be us. So put your name there. As we're going down here, we're starting to get ready to work into mobile, which we will be doing at some point. Here I have my CSS already linked. So I have 2 resets that are already linked up. You can see here it's looking for a file in the CSS folder. And there it is, normalize and skeleton. And then it's looking for my styles.css in my root folder, which is right here. So everything's linked accordingly. Here's my fave icon. It's looking in my images folder for my fave icon, which we could use xiconeditor.com to create our fave icon. You just always want to pay attention to the path of where you're saying that fave icon is. Same with all our CSS. I mean, the path of everything is very important. So be sure to double check. And that's just a lot of organization. Now, what's new in this site is I put in some JavaScript for your smooth scroll. And this is such a little amount of JavaScript that does so much for the page. So you can see here that we're linking to an external JavaScript page out on the web. So you have to be connected to the internet for this to work. So make sure that you are connected. And then there's this tiny bit of script that's basically saying that on your hrefs, there'll be a pound with an ID in front of them that will link to the page, to your section, and it's going to scroll to that name. Long story short. Then we come down, there's nothing in the body yet. That's where we're about to start. And I'm going to come back up here to my styles sheet, and you can see I did prepare a little bit for you as well. I imported a Google font, Oswald. I have in a comment here how we're going to properly link to all my text. To make it easier, we can copy and paste. And I prepared all our colors for us. So I know I have a dark blue that's going to be this hex number, a light blue that's going to be this hex number, and a tan for this final hex number. I'll show you what the final is going to look like. It's going to look like this. So we're going to have 3 buttons at the top. We have this beautiful picture of Cape May with a logo in the middle. And if I click About, it smooth scrolls down to the About section. If I hit More, it goes to the More section, and Contact down to the Contact. All right, let's rock and roll. So I'm going to come over to my index page, and we're going to start off with a little bit of HTML to start, and then we're going to code it. And so I do a little bit at a time. You know, you don't want to kind of overcode and then do all the CSS right away. I feel like that becomes a little bit overwhelming, but let's start right here. So the first thing at the top is our nav bar. So I'm going to start by doing nav. And I'll make this a little bit bigger so hopefully you can see it, and I'll bring this over as well. All right. So in our nav, we're going to have a wrapper. So if you remember what this just looked like, our nav is 100%. So our nav goes 100% across the page. That's that blue. But yet we still want to contain these buttons in the middle. So even though this nav is going to be the blue, but we need a wrapper or container to contain it in the center. So here I'm going to make a div class equals wrapper. And per usual, I like to comment everything out here that this is the wrapper. This really helps to make sure you don't have extra divs. And then in here, I'm going to do 3 links, so href. And I'm just going to put a pound sign in there for now because I haven't gone over how to properly link yet. So let's just put a pound sign. And that will make the rollover work for now. And this is going to be the about. I'm going to copy and paste that 2 more times. No need to write everything. More and contact. So we're just going to have 3 buttons. And so far that looks great. So now let's jump over. I always do a section at a time and make this first top section work completely and then move on to the header, then the body, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to come over to my styles, and every single div or HTML5 block element that I use, I'm going to put over here. Even, I might want to come back to it later. So I know I have nav, squiggly, squiggly. I know I put wrapper, squiggly, squiggly. I know I have a nav wrapper A for the links in there. And I know I have a nav wrapper A hover for my rollover. So you can see here I'm really kind of creating a compound rule. So you can see here I'm going in the nav, and in the nav there is a wrapper, and in the wrapper there is an A or an anchor link. So you can see here we have our nav, and then in there's the wrapper, and then the A. So I'm being really specific about that specific rule. And that's everything we just kind of did. Now here in the body, I would really only ever do a background color or background image. And in this case, I'm going to just actually leave it white. So if you wanted to, you could give that just a white background of FFF. You don't have to. You could leave it blank. All right, so let's go down here and now code this section. So this is a little bit different. So the nav's going to be the blue background. So here I definitely do need a background color. And it's going to be this light blue, so feel free to copy and paste when possible. It's going to have a width of 100% and a height of 50 pixels. I'm going to kind of test that out, make sure we can see it. There it is, right at the top. Now you can see over here our links are really butting on the left-hand side, and that's what that wrapper is going to help us with. So I'm going to come back here, and in the wrapper what I'm going to do is actually give it a set width. So that way it can't fly all the way to the left-hand side. So I'm going to give this a set width of 1024 pixels, and I'm going to make sure that this is margin auto, which will keep it centered. Now right away, if I would come back to this, you can see that they're no longer touching the left-hand side, that they're staying in the center, and I could always adjust this to be any different size. I also might want to add text align center to center them completely, as you can see here. So we're starting to create this wrapper. Now I'm going to come down here to our nav wrapper A, specifically the links in the nav, and I'm going to basically set my typography within here. Some important things would be the font family, which I saved up here at the top. So I can copy and paste my font family in, so it's the Oswald. I can give it a color of white. I can give it a font size. And I'm going to make it, let's try 16 pixels. And I'm going to give it some padding on the right, 70 pixels, so that separates each individual link so it doesn't look like one long word. And what do we have to do? Anything else? Oh, let's add some leading, because if you look at it, I'm going to come back so we can... They're all in place here. Everything looks good, but they're touching the top. I want to move them down a little bit, which I can do with line height. And I want to get rid of the text decoration so it doesn't have that underline. So text decoration, none. And line height, let's try 50 pixels. And that looks great. Lastly, we'll just set our rollover, which I'm going to take this dark blue color and just use that for the A hover. Oops, and that should just be for color, not background color. You can see there that the background color will put kind of like a highlight behind it. And basically all you want to do is the text to change. Maybe you do want that, but there we go. So our nav bar is ready to go. I mean, we didn't set these yet because we need a longer page. It won't scroll until the page is long enough. Let's jump back to the index page and start the next part, which is the header. So here I'm going to set my header. It's a gigantic picture of Cape May. And within that header, I am going to set an image, which is going to be the logo. So remember with CSS and HTML, you have 2 layers. Think about just 2 layers is what you're working with, really, from the start. And the layer all the way on the bottom is the CSS, and then the HTML image will be on top of it. So I'm going to set a background image here for header in the CSS, but I need to set the logo on top to make it clickable. So you can see that there. I just have my image. And then you can add a class to an image. So add this class. It's going to be called multiply. Spelling counts. So make sure you spell that right. And I'm going to jump over to my CSS now and set both of those properties. So I always put a little space in between each one. I have header, squiggly, squiggly. And I have that multiply. So period, multiply, because it's a class. That's why it has the period in front of. HTML5 tags do not have periods or pounds in front of them. They're just, they can stand by themselves because they close like this. Nav is also an HTML5. But a div, if I say class, I need a period, which I need for both of these. Okay, so coming back here, I'm going to use that background image that I wanted to do. So background image, if you go into your images folder, you can see I have a header PNG, which is perfect. I'm going to do background size cover, so it takes up the whole space. I'm going to give this a width and a height, so a width 100%, so it's the whole span. It's going to look really nice. And let's give it a height of... How big is that image? The image is 407. But let's make it just a little bit bigger. Let's say 650. Make it nice and big for now. Maybe we have to make that smaller, but we can start. So come back here, and this is what we got so far. We have this big image that stretches, that looks really good. And we have this logo. So the logo looks awful. It's white. The client only gave me a white JPEG. I can't have a transparent background. I can't go back to the AI. This happens at times. So we're going to kind of work with what we got. We're going to come back here, and I'm going to do a little trick here at this multiply. You all have worked with multiply before in Photoshop and maybe Illustrator. That's what we're going to do right here. So this is going to be this is a blending mode, just like in Photoshop. It's going to be mix, blend, mode, multiply. I'm going to hit save. And, you know, it doesn't really look like Brackets likes it, but it actually does. It's just not, it's one of the new CSS3 rules, so it's just not used to it. But you can see that kind of multiplies the image, so we don't have to worry about it. And now I can just give it a little bit of some parameters here to make it centered and all that good stuff. So in the header, what I'm going to do is do text align center, which will center any copy or images in the header itself, which moves that over. And I'm basically just going to, maybe you want to make it smaller, something to that extent. But so far, so good. Nice big logo on there. Okay. Let's move down to the next section, which we're going to basically have a lot of content. And this is the content section, but we can give it whatever name we want. I'm going to call it wrapper 2. So we used the wrapper up here, and that had a width of 1024. But this one's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to make it a little bit skinnier. So I'm going to do div class equals wrapper 2. And whatever system you want to work out for your sites, it's fine by me as long as there's some logic behind it. And in the wrapper here, I'm just going to give it an H1. Bird is the word. And I'm going to give it 2 paragraphs. And it's kind of important to have these 2 paragraphs because we need some scroll, right? We need some scroll to use the smooth scroll. So I'm going to go over here and just do some lorem ipsum and get 2 paragraphs. There we go. Beautiful. Come back over here, paste that in. And here I'm going to close the P. Here I'm going to open the P. Oops. Okay. So 2 beautiful paragraphs in place. If I would look at my preview, if we load quick enough, we should have 2 paragraphs at H1. It's going to span the whole 100% because we didn't give it any CSS yet. So as that loads and takes forever, I'm going to come back to my style sheet and let's give these a couple properties. So I did do my wrapper 2. I did an H1 and I did a paragraph. So I'm going to give these all some properties. First thing I'm going to do here with the wrapper is I'm going to give it a width of like 700 pixels. I wanted to have it a little bit skinnier and margin auto so it's centered. H1, I want to be a nice font, so I'm going to use my Oswald again to keep it consistent. We'll keep it for paragraph 2, why not? Let's make this font size, point size a little bit larger, like 36 pixels, so it's nice big. We have our font. We can choose a color of a nice dark blue and try to keep this to be a consistent color palette. And let's have the paragraph be 18 points smaller. I'm going to make the color gray. And I'm going to do, after each paragraph, I want a little bit of space between paragraphs just for aesthetic. So I'm going to do margin bottom. How about we put 20 pixels? After every paragraph, there'll be 20 pixels, which will be a nice separation. And finally, we had time to load. So here we go. That looks great. We have our paragraph. We have that. Looks good. I don't like... I'm going to change the font of the paragraph just to be Arial. Just looks a little hard to read. Let's just take one more look. That looks a lot better. A lot better. So, looks good, and this should be centered, which it is. When we almost, yeah, we're getting now finally a scrolling page, so we can do some stuff to it. All right, I'm going to start another video just to finish it up so we don't get too long. Be right back.